In this video, I'm going to show you how I got this red with a natural food coloring. The green is a good green. It'll probably get darker if I did what I did to this, to the green. So just watch the whole thing because I think that this is a good natural food coloring to use, especially for red, which is a difficult color to get with natural food coloring. But you can't do it the way that it says to on the label. We have to get a little bit tricky with it. Let's talk about natural food coloring for a minute, because with all the new laws coming into play with food coloring chemicals being banned, we're going to have to start looking around for some alternatives unless the companies that make the food coloring now are going to come up with some new formulas. So I got this supernatural plant-based food color. So this is vegan and gluten-free, no artificial colors, 3 times more vibrant with a little asterisk. And if you go down here, it says, then leading natural brands. Okay, natural food coloring is not vibrant in my experience. So we're going to test this out. This is the red and the green combination. I do have another combination coming, and it has more of the colors, but this is the Christmas assortment, I would assume. And what you do, this says to mix a packet in 2 teaspoons of water. 2 teaspoons of water is not much. I don't know if you can even see that in there. It's just a tiny bit. So it's not going to give you a tremendous amount of color. Let me just say right off, I'm skeptical, and I will be happy to be proven wrong, but I don't think that this is going to be super vibrant. We'll find out. Now, I do have 2 extra packets, so it comes with 2 packets of each in this specific box. I'll put the links to all this stuff in the description of the video. And it does say to use gloves. I live dangerously, so, and I don't care if I have food coloring all over myself, because that's a normal thing, but if you want to protect yourself and not have food coloring all over your hands, get some gloves. Okay, I can see right away that it's turning red. It looks orange, but it's turning red when it hits the water. So we can see that. I should probably hold this over here. I'm going to try to get as much of this out as I can. And I was thinking about putting some of the powder straight into the icing also. If this isn't super dark, and I don't think it will be just because it is the natural color, but we can test it out if we need to. And I'm assuming that you can keep this in the fridge. It says it's plant-based. There's nothing artificial. There's no preservatives. So I would think that if you don't use this up, you can then go ahead and just keep the extra in the fridge. All right, so let's mix this. I have little spoons here. That actually is very red. The problem is that, you know, what's it going to do when you get it into the icing? And you can also put this into batter, apparently. The box says this makes enough for 2 cups of icing, like to color 2 cups of icing, which is not a lot. So this, I'm assuming this is good for like piping details and that kind of thing, as opposed to covering an entire cake. And you'd have to use a lot of it for that. Or 1 packet will color 24 cupcakes. You can put it into batter. And it does have a little warning about baking it for too long. So I guess if you heat it up too much, the color can change. So I'd be careful with that. And I can see right away there's some stuck in the spoon. I'm trying to get it all out. It might be good just to put this, like prepare this ahead of time and let it sit in the liquid for a while. This, yeah, it definitely does. The powder itself does not look like the color. It's a lot browner for both the red and the green. But once you put it into the water, it is turning the color. And it does want to lump up. So yeah, like I said, this might be good to do ahead of time and then just let it sit so that it can soften up and absorb the water, and then you can come back and whisk it, or maybe use a little tiny whisk. I think if you have a little, like a fork, because this is really lumpy. This is lumping up. Well, we'll see. I don't think it's going to hurt if there are lumps. And I would, you know, honestly, I would mix this up and put it in a little tiny container and then keep it in the fridge if you're not going to use the whole batch. But if it only does 2 cups of icing, it's going to be used up pretty quickly. Okay, so I have, now this is not 2 cups of icing. This is probably about a half a cup of icing in each thing. So I'm just going to use a little bit of this and put it in here and see what happens. I don't want to cheat myself. We'll see. I'm going to put, that's about, okay, this is 1/4 of a teaspoon. So I would need to have, okay, it's pretty much exactly what I just put in there to be a half a teaspoon. And it's 2 teaspoons, so that's 1/4 of it. So I'm going to leave that. We're going to mix this up and see what happens. I have to say I love these tiny spatulas. I'll put a link to these in the description of the video too. That's actually a pretty good color. Okay, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Well, all right, let's mix it up and then make a decision. Okay, it's orange. I would not call, well, you know, it's the kind of thing that if this is on a cake, it is going to look orange unless it's right next to something that is brighter orange and it'll look more red. But I don't know that adding more liquid to this would be a good idea because it's softening it up. It's not as bright as red food coloring. We'll just put it that way. I think this would be acceptable depending on what other colors are on the cake with it. So let's try the green. And if you are doing a Christmas cake and you want to avoid the artificial colors, that's proportionally what I should do. Then this is probably a good alternative. And if they're, let's see what they look like together. See, this is the thing. If they look fine together and it looks like red and green when they're next to each other, then that's perfect. You don't need to worry about it. And I will say that these definitely are brighter colors than the other natural food colorings that I've tested. And I can do a comparison. Once I get the other set that has all of the colors in it, I can do a comparison with those. They're just not going to be as bright as artificial colors, and that's just how it goes. But they also don't have the dyes in them that could, some people don't react well with the dyes, so it just avoids all of that. You don't have to even worry about that. Okay, see, this is not going to be like a super bright green, but this is a very natural green color. I'd say if you're looking for a sage green, this is a really good color. If you're looking for a super bright neon artificial doesn't exist in nature color, or it might not exist too many places, then this might not be it. But let's put these two together. The red is problematic with natural food coloring just because it doesn't hold the color. Red does not hold the color in food coloring, and that's why they use the artificial dyes. I was thinking maybe I should go ahead and add some more to this, but I think you know what? Let's do that. Let's just add this whole pack. Now, I don't know if this will work. I don't know if this is going to work if I just add, but I'm going to test it. I'm just going to add this whole thing to this and see what color comes out. And it might not work. I mean, it says you might need to activate it with the liquid, but there's liquid in the icing, so why not? And also remember, this is not a lot of icing, so you might need a lot of the color to actually get a red. And I'm not sure if I just ruined this or not. I probably did. I think if I do this, I need to give it a fair chance to hydrate because, oh no, okay, look. Now, okay. Now we're getting somewhere because this is turning from an orange into a red. That's, okay. I think if you're going to use red, now it's kind of more of a pink. I think this works better. Okay, so as this is hydrating with the liquid in the icing, it is definitely turning red. As I continue to mix this powder in, it is turning red. Now this is not like a super bright Christmas red, but it is red, it's not orange, and I would be very happy with this color on a cake that was supposed to be red and green. And I would assume that if I took the green powder and mixed it directly into the icing, it's going to give me the same result. Now remember that this is not a lot of icing, so you're going to have to use a lot of the powder, but I would suggest not mixing it in with the water. And that was my first impulse, but then I thought, well, I better do the instructions. I don't know. But it's mixing in with the liquid in the icing, and it is turning red. So I am very pleased with this color for a natural food coloring. So there's my test, that's my demo. And I would say that if you need a natural food coloring that is red, this is a good choice. You're going to need a decent amount of it though. And don't put it in the water. Just put it directly into your icing and start with the 2 cups. See, this is the thing. It says 1 packet is 2 cups of frosting. So I don't know, you know, I put a very small amount into this with the liquid, but if you just put the powder in, it's going to give you a deeper color, and that is pretty good. And it might actually get deeper when it sits. I don't know, because it was getting deeper. It was like getting more of a red and less of an orange as I was mixing it. It would probably do the same thing with this. I would reserve this for piping on cupcakes or doing detail work, but it is red. It's not orange, it's red. And okay, I do recommend this brand. How's that? I would use this brand myself. I recommend it. I would just use it a little bit off-label directions and just put the powder in the icing.